Okay, so this is a map of the 10 cities of Toronto, and this map is essentially the outcome of a two-step methodology. And what's going on here is, first and foremost, a principal component analysis, which essentially took 6 dimensions crafted from the literature review, and then sorted the results from that principal component analysis into 10 clusters through a Ward's linkage cluster analysis. So what we ended up with, all packaged together, were 36 unique variables that described different patterns of housing, patterns of immigration, patterns of income, and patterns of labor across the Toronto Census Metropolitan Area. So what that's allowed me to do here is essentially create a set of 10 narratives about the city region as a whole. So there's lots of stories that can be told about this region, but I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about 2, especially 2 stories that are really embedded within the suburban narrative. So the first thing that I want to draw attention to are these areas in dark blue that are found in what's conceptualized as inner suburbia. Conceptualizing patterns known as vertical poverty, for example. Here we see lots of immigrant households who are living in low-rent, affordable housing apartment buildings, for the most part, in areas of rising poverty rates. Associated with this are also patterns of labor where we see high concentrations of service sector employment. We also see a number of other patterns that really hint at growing polarization centered within this region, also conceptualized by David Halchansky in 2007 as the 3rd city of Toronto, where we see rising poverty rates and a general separation from different parts of the city in terms of income. So in these inner suburban areas, we see the fastest rises in rates of economic polarization and inequality. Jumping out to the outer suburbs, as they've been called, we see a different pattern of suburbanization occurring, one also entangled with patterns of immigration and home ownership. Out here in the areas conceptualized as the new ethnoburbia, we find communities that are built essentially on the fringe, not just in terms of their actual geographic location, but in terms of how many homeowners are purchasing these homes and essentially getting into certain mortgages to be able to afford this housing. So not only geographically are many of these communities on the fringe, they are also on the fringe in terms of long-term housing mortgages, which, as Alan Watts has recently pointed to, are also the areas of Toronto, just in the outer suburbs, where we see the highest ratios of household debt. So essentially what we have here are 2 different geographies of immigration and housing with 2 extremely different contexts. However, both suggest rising patterns of immigration and housing, which suggest new levels of housing precarity within the Toronto region, and really gets us to think about the diversity within this region. Thanks.